Welcome. Thank you. It's funny when that episode came out, because I follow that show as well. I think it was right after you and I had our intro call, and it popped. And I know that guy. So so it turns out me and millions of other people obviously also know you at this point. So thank you very much for making some time for this
Oh,
conversation.
absolutely. Just to let you know, Curtis and I have been friends for quite a long time. He's a dear, dear person in my life. And if Curtis asks me to do something, I usually just do it.
I love it. I love it. All right, friends. So just to share quickly the screen on what's on deck for the time we have together. So we'll do a quick opening. We always do a little grounding breathwork flow, which we do in all of our Beusail Longevity forms as well, because I mean, let's just face it, there's no shortage of craziness and challenging things and wild things happening in the world at it seems like every second of our time here, as well as everything that's going on internally within our own worlds and so forth. So it's just a nice way to give our minds a bit of a break, take them to the spa for a few minutes and reset and blow out some mental clutter so that when we have the chat with Dr. Breus, we're all just present and grounded and ready to go. So we'll do that. And then for those who haven't gone through one of the plus 22 breakthrough experiences, we'll jump in or you'll stay in this room with me. And then everyone that's already gone through that process will have a little bit of an extended Q&A with Dr. Breus and Curtis. Um, and then we'll close out. So with that, I'll jump into the breathing in a second. I'll hit the play button on that. But just so you're not self-conscious, everyone, if you want, you can kill your camera while we go through it, because I do encourage like really breathe, like properly, follow the cues, do nice full belly breaths and get all that oxygen in your body. And I don't want anyone self-conscious on what that may look like on camera. So we'll come back in a second. But just for anyone I can see, Tamar, can you give me a thumbs up?
Hello,
Because I
ready
can
to
see
get
you. Yeah, okay,
focused, be
perfect.
productive, and have an awesome
All
day?
right.
Let's do this thing, starting with in 4, out 4, nasal breath. In 2, 1. In, out. In, out. In, out.
We lost sound, Mark.
You lost the sound?
We did. I think
Okay.
people are not
Once,
on mute.
hold on. Once.
Tomorrow. Good morning.
Can,
Ken, I was halfway through my breath exercise.
can anyone hear that?
No.
No. Okay. Let me just try that again.
And if
Um,
everyone can mute, that would be amazing. Thank you.
yes. So
Pick
I'll
up your
just stop sharing and try this again. Sorry about that.
No problem.
All right. Let's try that again. And let me know if can you
Hello,
everyone hear
ready
that?
to get focused, be
Yep.
productive, and have
Yep.
an
Okay.
awesome day?
All right. We'll try that
Let's do
again.
this thing,
Yes.
starting with in 4, out 4, nasal breath. In 2, 1. In, out. In, out.
Mark, it's really garbled.
In, out.
Sounds good here.
In, out. Double time, here we go. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. In. Get lost in this. Big breath in. Squeeze your hands into fists. Feel the power in your whole body. You're alive. Let's let it out with a big exhale right now. Holding on empty. conjure up the power you have within you. Feel it. Let's breathe life into this again. 2-count breath. Here we go. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, big breath in. Empty it out. Getting ready for a 1-count breath. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Get lost in this. You got 30 more seconds. Give it your all. Getting ready for our final breath in. Take it in. Feel the power in your stomach. Feel the drive in your heart. Use this today. Let it out. Beautiful. You are incredible.
All right. Just slowly come back to your regular breath. My apologies for that little hiccup at the beginning. Hopefully got back on track. How's everyone feeling? Just quick, either yell it out or in the chat. One word in the chat. What's the dominant emotion that's showing up right now or feeling? I mean, I feel, present. I feel energized, really good. Energized,
Can you hear
yeah.
me?
Yeah,
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you, Rick. Yeah,
You sound great. It was good. Very good. Thank you.
relaxed. Yeah, just as for everyone new here, I mean, again, just one of those things, and I know Dr. Breus talks about this in his work, but the breath, I mean, it's this powerful tool that we literally all have, and it's the thing that keeps us alive, but we can do so much more with it. I mean, you can see in a short few minutes, I mean, that was a very, specific style of breathing, of course, to activate the body and reset the nervous system, but there's so many different modalities that we don't have to live in mental loops and don't have to live in a bunch of stress, and we can blow out a lot of that pressure. And I know, different ones that maybe Michael, we can talk about around that. Was it I think 4-7-8, I believe, is one that's good for sleeping, falling back asleep, going to sleep, and kind of everything in between. So with that, Michael, welcome to the crew. Good to have
Thank
you.
you.
All right, let's jump in. Just gonna throw the chat here so it's out of the way. All right, so I heard you say, I mean, I've heard you say many great things, but one of the ones that really stuck out was just around the idea of when we have great sleep, it just affects everything, of course, right? And we've got a group here of motivated humans that are interested in their longevity, not just living longer, but living thriving years. Like, why should we care about sleep?
It's a great question. A lot of people come to me and they say, well, my body does this automatically. Like, why do I need any coaching? Why do I need any help in it? These are for people who don't have sleep related issues. And let's be fair, lots of people have sleep related issues. I would argue that specifically in this crazy geopolitical time that we have right now, there are so many people who have minds spinning as soon as they turn out the lights, and it's rough. I remember somebody asked me what was the busiest time in my career. It was the week after 9/11 was the busiest time in my career. So sleep is kind of this almost like a a monitor of your overall stress. The way I look at sleep is kind of like the volume knob of longevity, right? So when your sleep is low or down, nothing is working particularly well. But as the sleep in both quantity, but more importantly, quality, as that turns up, that's when we really start to see things working much better. Sleep affects every organ system and every disease state. Literally everything you do better with a good night's sleep. There isn't one single thing that it's like, hey, I'm going to go get a crappy night's sleep so I can go do this. It doesn't really work that way. It really is one of those fundamental things. But I also want to be careful here because we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves to sleep. Right? I mean, that's an easy one to be like, oh my gosh, if I don't get a certain amount of sleep, everything's going to go off the rails. Not necessarily true either. Remember, sleep is flexible. And we're going to talk a lot about that today, about some of those flexibilities. You don't have to do everything 100% right in order to get good, high quality sleep.
Love it. Thank you. And I should maybe the first that question I should have asked is just why did you get involved in sleep and make this, what was your fascination or what queued it up for you?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a story, but I don't mind telling it. So I had just finished my PhD in clinical psychology. And when you're done with that, you then go do a 1-year residency to basically practice all the stuff you've been learning for 4 years under the mentorship of, well-guided people who've been in the field for many, many years. And at the time, I was at the University of Georgia, go Bulldogs. And I was very interested in sports psychology. So that's a Division I sports team. You get to work with these incredible athletes. And I wanted to get into the mental game of sports and all of that kind of good stuff. And so for my residency, there was a very particular program I was interested in going in, believe it or not, at the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson, Mississippi. But if I'm honest, I couldn't get in. It was for the Harvards, the Princetons, the Yales of the world. I went to the University of Georgia. I mean, it was a top 20 program, but it wasn't Harvard. But they had a sleep track available on the side that was fully funded. And I worked my way through graduate school in the Department of Electrophysiology. So what that means is I know how to take apart all the crazy machines that measure signals that come from your body and put them back together to make them work again. It turns out sleep uses all of those machines in a sleep study. So I was like, aha, I'm going to sell myself as a sleep guy. And as soon as I get there, I'm just going to transfer into the sports psychology program, because just because you ain't going to let me in through the front door doesn't mean I'm not going to be in your program. It means I'm going to figure out a way to get there. So I sell myself as a sleep guy, get in day one, raise my hand. They say, yes, Dr. Breus. I said, how do I transfer? They said, we had a feeling this was something you were going to try to do. So you're fully funded by sleep, which means the first 6 months, you have to be in the sleep lab. The next 6, you can go do whatever you want. I was like, how tough could this be? It's sleep. I do it every night. Like this can't be particularly difficult. So I got in there, and if I'm honest with you, Mark, by the 3rd day, I absolutely fell in love with clinical sleep medicine. And I can tell you why. I help people this fast. It's unbelievable. When you change someone's sleep, you change their life. It is fundamental to who they are and affects every single aspect of their life, their mental health, their cognitive health, their physical health. And I mean, it's just fun. I have a real passion for it. I like to learn about it. My son, of course, Cooper, says it's the greatest social hack in all of existence, because if I'm at a party and Curtis can tell you and people find out I'm a sleep doctor, the line forms around. My wife rolls her eyes and walks to the bar because she knows it's going to be a long night of sleep questions. And I get to meet some amazing people. So sleep's been very, very good to me. And I feel, I want to give back. And so that's why I love doing these kind of talks where I get to hang out with people, answer questions. Because if I'm honest with you, most of the time, the only time you meet a sleep doctor is when you're in their office and you've already been diagnosed with something or concerned about a sleep disorder. And that's not necessarily the best way to meet it or get all your questions answered. And so I'm here today to talk about everything from narcolepsy to mattresses to, pillows to sleep apnea. Like that's the fun part, is I get a real breadth of knowledge here.
Love it. So where do we start? Because I mean, I definitely knowing the group in the audience. I mean, we've got high performing humans here. They, running businesses, lead
Yeah.
teams, or traveling. There are various, I think, use cases that we can get into, especially with travel and hotel rooms and all
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of stuff. But before even getting there, just some of the the fundamentals, the core things that, I think
Hmm.
maybe we're not asking enough questions around just for us individually that where we can just even start going down this path.
Well, I think one place that we could start with, and this is a question that I get asked quite often, is about sleep trackers, right? So Aura rings, Whoop straps, Garmin watches, Apple Watch. Yep, see, Tamara's showing me she's got hers on. I'd let you know if people want to put in the chat which tracker you've got. We'd love to kind of see which one, see how many of you all are doing tracking these days. It's pretty interesting. Yeah, Fitbit's another one that we see a lot of. Whoop, Aura, like it's pretty remarkable how many people have been tracking. And I want to start by explaining a little bit of how these trackers work and what to do, but more importantly, what not to do. Honestly, Mark, I can't count the number of people who walk up to me and they say, I woke up this morning and my sleep tracker hijacked my day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? And they say, I got a bad score. And you know what? I became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And all of a sudden I got a 37. And now my day is terrible and I feel like crap and all of these different things. So let's set a baseline for everyone here so we know how to use these types of devices in a very judicious and important way. So first of all, don't look at your data every single day. You will drive yourself freaking crazy, okay? Everybody has variability to their sleep. So I really like people looking more at a week-long trend of their data rather than individual data. I honestly can't count the number of people who walk up to me and say, Dr. Breus, I only got 14 minutes of deep sleep. Am I gonna die? Yeah, you're going to die, but it's probably not from 14 minutes of deep sleep. Here's the most important thing to remember is depth of sleep, which is how we measure sleep, like stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and REM sleep. We measure that from brain waves. It's really hard to get brain waves from your finger. Okay. And so what has to happen is all of these devices have to use what's called a proxy, meaning they take heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, and then they have a correlation that they can do with these stages. So all of these stages have real accuracy issues. So don't focus on, oh my gosh, I need to get more deep sleep or I need to get more REM sleep, because once again, you're probably not dealing with really accurate information. What I like people to do is when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, how did you sleep? You are your best doctor, okay? You know your body better than anybody else. And if you wake up and you feel great, you probably got some good sleep. But if you wake up and feel like crap, you probably didn't get some good sleep. So thinking through this as an idea, don't swear by the trackers of it all. Use those as little pushes in certain directions so that way you can start to understand a bit more. If you really want to get accurate sleep information, that's when you actually go and do a sleep study. And to be fair, most people don't require a sleep study unless we think you might have a sleep disorder.
So then from there, you just find that people, either journal or obviously, track how they're feeling and so forth, and then you start reverse engineering the night before? Is that a good approach?
Well, so what I would do is I would look across a week and I would say, okay, where do we see a deflection or where do we see a delta? So if it's 14 minutes, 14 minutes, 14 minutes, and then 407 minutes, I want to know what happened on the night that you got 407 minutes, right? So I'm always looking for the deltas that are going in there. Overall, I think there's some general sleep guidelines that I feel comfortable giving everybody here that everybody can follow, no matter what your tracker says, that can actually improve your overall sleep quality. If everybody gets just one piece of advice from our conversation here today, and some people may or may not like that, is to wake up at the same time 7 days a week. Yep, I know Saturday and Sunday, people are like, oh, Michael, I wake up at 6:30 during the week. That sucks. I don't want to wake up at 6:30 on the weekends. Let me explain the biology for just a second so that everybody really gets a feel for why this is so important. So when we wake up in the morning, sunlight hits our eye and we have a special cell in our eye called a melanopsin cell. This cell sends a signal to the back of your brain to turn off the melatonin faucet in your head, but it sets a timer for exactly 14 hours later to restart melatonin. So it becomes very important to understand that the time that you wake up directly affects when melatonin kicks off in the middle of the night, or actually in the early evening. It's approximately 14 hours later. So if you're waking up at 6, it kicks off around 8 at night, takes an hour and a half to get up and in, start to feel sleepy around 10, and boom, you're asleep. However, if it's Saturday and you say, I'm sleeping in until 8, right? Melatonin doesn't kick off until 10 that night. And now you've created almost like what we call a social jet lag situation, right? So if you stay up late on Friday, sleep in on Saturday, stay up late on Saturday, sleep in on Sunday, Monday sucks. And the reason it sucks is because your entire circadian rhythm has wanted to shift. So the closer that you can get to this even wake up time, the better. Now, a lot of people will say to me, Michael, most people tell us to go to bed at the same time every night, not wake up at the same time. Help me understand why you're not saying that. I look at bedtime kind of like I look at a bag of chips. Once you break it open, you're going for it, right? So once you pass that bedtime that you've set, it's on. Like, let's watch Game of Thrones and have a great night, like that's really what people think. But the wake up time is simple because you just set an alarm. There's no motivation behind it. You don't have to force yourself to do anything. All you do is set this alarm. And here's what's interesting is it actually metrics you later on. If you know you're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, there's no way you're staying up until 1 o'clock watching Game of Thrones. So this is an easy behavioral technique that anybody can do by just setting their alarm to be able to go every single morning and be able to wake them up at the same time. Now, there's a little second point here that I think is important to realize, which is a lot of people are going to turn to me and say, hey, Michael, I use my phone to wake me up in the morning. I'm going to be honest with you. This is not, while I like the alarm part of it, I don't like you having your phone next to your bed. And here's why. Because, Mark, the number one question that I get asked everywhere I go is, Michael, what do I do if I wake up somewhere between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning for either 15 minutes or 3 hours and I can't return to sleep? The phone actually plays a role in this whole type of scenario, because here's what usually happens. People wake up, they grab their phone and they head to the bathroom, right? And they're looking at their phone and they instantly do the mental math and now they're upset. And that causes all kinds of problems in the middle of the night. And if you don't mind, I'd like to double tap on this idea. Yeah. What do you do in the middle of the night? I've got a specific protocol that I can give everybody if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So step number 1, if you wake up somewhere between 1, well, let me back up and tell you the biology of why you wake up in the middle of the night. So it's kind of interesting. Your core body temperature rises till about 10:30 at night. It hits a peak and then it begins to drop. That drop is actually a signal to your brain to release melatonin. Your core body temperature continues to drop. But at some point in time, if it doesn't go north and heat your body up again, you go hypothermic and you die. Guess what time that is? Between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So every human on earth, everyone wakes up between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And most people, by the way, they burp, they fart, they roll over, and they go back to sleep. However, there's a group of people every once in a while, myself included, who wake up and they cannot return to sleep. Actually, I'd love to know in the chat or by a raise of hands with on video if any of you out there have experienced this problem, because this is a huge issue for a lot of my patients. Yep. Okay, good. We got to. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, literally, it's almost everybody. Okay, good. Well, I'm glad I'm in the group. So step number 1. This is going to sound crazy. Don't go pee. Yep, you heard it here. Don't go pee. Now, people are going to be like, Michael, come on. What are you talking about? So here's what usually happens is you wake up and you say to yourself, I'm up. I might as well go pee. This is not the thing that you want to do. Now, I want to be very clear. If you have to go pee, please go pee. All right. But what a lot of people don't realize is you need a heart rate of 60 or below to enter into a state of unconsciousness. Guess what happens when you go from a lying position to a seated position to a standing position and you walk across the room? That's right, Steve. Your heart rate goes up. And that becomes problematic because now you got to go to the bathroom, get back, and then lower your heart rate. So it becomes quite difficult at times to be able to understand this. So if you don't really have to pee, don't go pee. I got to be honest, like don't put on a pair of Depends, okay? Like if you got to go pee, please go pee, right? So that's number one is don't go pee unless you really, really have to. Number two has to do with that phone we were just talking about a minute ago. Don't look at the clock because you instantly do the mental math. And quite frankly, now you're pissed off, right? You're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it's 3:30 in the morning. I have to get back up at 6. Sleep, sleep, sleep. And you try to force your brain to sleep. In the history of time, nobody has ever been able to force themselves to sleep unless they used anesthesia. Okay. So it doesn't really work that way because what's happening is you're elevating your heart rate, you're elevating your arousal levels, you're turning on your sympathetic nervous system. This is not what we want. We want the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system to activate, not this thing that's activating you and making you all upset. So step number one, don't go pee unless you need to. And by the way, if you do need to go pee, put a strategically placed nightlight into the water closet. The second you flip the light on in the bathroom, you just told your brain it's morning and it stops producing melatonin. So if you just have a strategically placed nightlight in there, you can go in, do what you need to do and come back. Also, if you can restrict fluids about an hour and a half to 3 hours before bed, that's always going to be helpful. Unless you have to take medication or you're diabetic, please check with your doctor before restricting fluids. We want to be thoughtful about that as well. So we haven't gone to pee. We haven't looked at the clock. Michael, I'm up. What do I do? This is where, as you mentioned earlier, Mark, I tell people about 4-7-8 breathing. This is one of my favorite techniques. It was developed by Dr. Andrew Wild, a Harvard-trained naturalist. And it's really quite remarkable. It was initially developed for the military, believe it or not, in order to help them lower their heart rate, but it's perfect for us as well. And so it's almost exactly what you think it is. It's slowly breathing in through the nose for a count of 4, holding for a count of 7, and then slowly pushing out through the mouth by a count of 8. Now, what's great about this technique is if you can get through about 20 cycles of it, your heart rate dumps to about 60, and then the natural sleep process can take over and allow you to fall back asleep. But I'm going to be honest with you, there's a couple caveats here that we need to talk about. So if I have this problem happen to me, and I'm not immune to this at all, by the way, folks, like everybody can have this issue occur, even the sleep doctor. A couple things that you want to think about. So first of all, when you're breathing, you want to try to picture the number in your head. There's a very specific reason for that, and it's called monkey mind. I'm not sure I have to define monkey mind. I think everybody on the call probably knows what I'm talking about, but this is those crazy thoughts that hit you in the middle of the night, like what's the grocery list, or what did I say to my spouse, or what's going on tomorrow? Thoughts that are completely unnecessary at 3 o'clock in the morning. You cannot count and think at the same time. And if you follow this breathwork technique, it lowers your heart rate. So it's kind of like a twofer, right? You get 2 for the price of 1. So I really like to people to understand kind of that. The second and third things are sometimes I get lost in the count, right? I mean, you got to go for 20 cycles and you're counting 4, 7, 8, like it's kind of rough. So here's what I have people do is when you're lying there, pretend like take your hands and put them into a light fist. And then when you go through one, they're down by your side. When you go through one, stick out a finger. Then you get through a second one, stick out a second finger, and then a third finger. Before you know it, you're at 10 cycles, you wrap it back, you're at 20, and you're usually out.
That's good.
So it works really well because now you're doing something distally, right? You're counting in your mind's eye and your breathing is starting to allow your heart rate to slow down. So it's literally impossible to think about anything else. And that's usually the big magic that gets there. So it's very important to kind of think through this. Now, there's one other thing that I need to tell everybody. When I first started doing this, I couldn't hold for 7 and push for 8. Like I just wasn't used to doing it. So you can modify the technique to get used to it. So I tell people try 4, 5, 6 breathing for a couple of weeks, then 4, 6, 7 breathing, and then you can get to 4, 7, 8 breathing. So don't worry, you don't have to be a master breath work, person in order to do this. You can slowly get yourself there, but the concentration, the counting, the fingers, they really all seem to come together nicely to allow the natural sleep process to come back down. Now, Steve put in the count here one of my old favorite techniques, which is to count backwards from 300 by threes. This is a great one because you can't do, the math is pretty complicated. You can't think of anything else. And boom, you go out like a light. So that's another great distraction technique that I've used many, many times and recommended to a lot of people. Now, let's say you haven't looked at the clock. You haven't gone to the bathroom. You've either been counting backwards or you've been doing 4, 7, 8, but you're still awake. What do you do at this point in time? So there's a couple of things I want people to understand. So first of all, there's now data on something called non-sleep deep rest. So what is that? That's just lying, chilling out, and not getting anxious. If you can do that for an hour, it's worth about 20 minutes of sleep. It's pretty rejuvenative, actually. Don't get me wrong, it's not the same as sleep, but understand that by lying and relaxing and just having a nice, steady, deep breath and in and out, this is definitely helpful in terms of recovery for your overall system. Now, if that is it kind of allows you to kind of get your head wrapped around it, the other big thing here is you've got to be positive. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, California doctor, he's going to get all woo-woo on me and tell me about positivity and all of this kind of nonsense. Let me be clear, it works and it's important. Think about it like this. When was the last time you were woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it was good news? Never, okay? Your brain, when it gets woken up in the middle of a sleep cycle that's that deep in, it's immediately on alert, okay? And it's immediately thinking on the negative side of alert. It's not thinking, oh, I can't wait for my friends to come in and wish me happy birthday at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not what's going on. You're thinking, oh crap, somebody's broken into my house. You're thinking, all kinds of different things, or maybe my kid hasn't come home yet from their date. Whatever it is, it's not positive. What you really need to do here is recognize it. Somebody told me this a while back, and I think it's really true, is most of the time you can't stop your first thought, but you can definitely stop your second thought, right? So if the first thought is negative and you're like, ugh, I can't believe it, I'm awake again at 3 o'clock in the morning, here's a new mantra that you're going to want to tell yourself, which is, hey, you know what? It's okay. This has happened to me before. It's not like my head popped off. I'm going to get through this just fine. I remember that weird sleep guy said something about 4, 7, 8 breathing. Maybe I'll try that now. But staying in that positive framework really helps because, again, it keeps the heart rate down. It all comes back to the biology of it all and that heart rate below 60 to get you into that state of unconsciousness. Now, also, to be fair, there's some people who will never get their heart rate below 60. They have high blood pressure, there are different things like that. So we're really just talking about the lowest heart rate, rather, that you can kind of get to. And the final thing I tell people is, look, if you've been doing this for a while and you feel yourself getting anxious or getting upset, then it is good to go ahead and get up and go to another room. Now, to be clear, what you want is you want to have something already set up, like a chair with a book and a tableside lamp or something along those lines, to be able to, because the last thing I want you doing is flipping through the stations or trying to figure out what you want to do at 3 o'clock in the morning. Have an area that's already designated so you don't have to stress out about it. Walk over, pick up your book. I prefer reading, by the way, during this period of time. It seems to work the best for folks, and allow yourself to read a little bit and understand kind of what's going on there. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. I love that. There's a bunch of tools there. And speaking of tools and use cases, I think, yeah, exactly. So let's say you do all of that, and we're human, and we still have, let's just say, a shitty night of sleep, and we still have to perform. We still have to do what we need to do. You could probably use some of that yoga nidra, I imagine, in the day, but there's also the, I love this one. You've got to talk about the CEO. What is it? Napa latte?
Yep.
Yeah. What's
So
that?
let me tell everybody about this little technique that I developed. I call it the Napa latte. So the science behind it is pretty interesting. So when a cell eats a piece of glucose, something comes out the back end. One of those things is called adenosine. Adenosine works its way through your system and accumulates in a very specific receptor area in your brain. as adenosine accumulates, you get sleepier and sleepier and sleepier. So if you got only, let's say, 4 hours of sleep the night before, because, hey, you tried counting backwards, you tried 4, 7, 8, and it just wasn't going to work, which, by the way, can happen specifically when you travel. It has a greater likelihood to happen because you've been moving time zones and things like that. What I want you to do is I want you to take a cup of drip black coffee, no cream, no sugar, throw 3 ice cubes in it merely to cool it down. Slug it, drink the whole thing as quickly as you can, and then take a 25-minute nap. You don't even, by the way, have to fall asleep. When you're lying there with your eyes closed and relaxing, what happens is you burn through the adenosine. The caffeine is waiting in the wings. It turns out that caffeine and adenosine are off by 1 molecule when you look at the compound. So believe it or not, caffeine fits perfectly in and blocks that adenosine receptor site. You're good for 4 hours, guaranteed. It works like a charm. Please don't do a Napa latte every day. That's not what the technique is designed for. But what it is designed for is kind of at its escape hatch, if you will, if things aren't going too well and you've got to really perform.
Chronotypes. Talk to us about lions and dolphins and all of that, because I think that, I mean, we're all different, of course. Yeah. And if we, like, this information has been so helpful personally, then it's like you're not working against how you're set up or how you're wired, which I think a lot of us typically are, because you're just, oh, I need to be getting up at this time, or I need to be working at this time. Like, let's set ourselves up to thrive here.
Absolutely. So you definitely hit on a big one for me. So I'd say the thing I'm most famous for is my chronotype system. Many people might have seen about 3 or 4 months ago, I got quoted in the Wall Street Journal. They were asking me about something called the 5 a.m. club. I said, I think it's only the second stupidest idea other than mouth tape in all of sleep and sleep medicine. Right?
Whoa, big claims here. I like it.
So, trust me, brother. When I've got something to say, I throw it out there. So, like, you know, when you look at this idea of waking up at everybody should wake up at the same time, it actually goes against your genetics, right? And so what a chronotype is, by the way, that's kind of a word that many people might not know, but everybody out there has ever been called an early bird or a night owl. Those are chronotypes. It turns out they're genetic. So if you've had your genome sequenced, I can actually show you where on the human genome that something called a single nucleotide polymorphism happens, or a SNP. Where, for example, the building blocks, if they flip one way, you're an early bird. If they flip another way, you're a night owl. If they don't flip, you're in the middle. And then there's an irregularity that can come, causing increased arousal. So instead of, by the way, not using their naming system, because I'm a mammal, not a bird, I decided to say, I'm not an early bird, I'm going to be a lion. Because let's be fair, who wouldn't want to be king or queen of the jungle, right? So lions are my early morning people. There's only about 15% in the population that naturally occur. So that 5 a.m. club is reserved for that 15%, okay? If you try to do this as a night owl, or what I call as a wolf, you will fail. I can assure you, it just isn't in your genetics. So early birds are lions, make up, again, 15% of the population. These have a tendency to be my COOs of a company, not necessarily my CEOs. These are my operators. By the way, you know, if you have a lion in your animal kingdom, if you get an email from somebody at 5 o'clock in the morning, I can assure you that person is a lion if they're in your same time zone. People in the middle, I call bears. This makes up a tremendous number of people, literally 50 to 55% of the population. 1 in 2 people are a bear. Now, turns out we've actually had almost 3.5 million people take my quiz. And we'll put this in the chat, but it's called chronoquiz.com. Curtis, if you wouldn't mind, can you bang that in there for me? I appreciate it. This is a quiz that you can take. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes online. You'll learn which one of these animal types that you are, and you'll be in great shape after that. I think somebody's microphone just turned on. We'll see.
There we go.
Fix that. So if you're a bear, you are what I call a solar sleeper. You like to get up around 7, you go to bed around 10. It's kind of these people that are sort of in the middle. Then there are the night owls, or what I call the wolves. I have been a night owl my entire life. It's kind of an interesting place to be. This is a lot of times where your CEO is, or your inventor, your founder, your artist, your actor, your musician. Creatives have a tendency to be creative, not at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but at 2 o'clock in the morning. And so we know this about them. And so we don't want to curtail all this amazing things that they can create. So we want them to proliferate all of their ideas in the middle of the night. But the problem is they've been told they were lazy their whole lives, because if they tried to take an 8 a.m. class in school, they never made it, or an 8 a.m. meeting, they're falling asleep in the back row. This is not your fault. This is genetics, folks. This is like, you're not a lazy human if you can't wake up at 5 a.m. It's probably not your chronotype. Now, if I'm being honest again, Mark, I don't think I've told anybody anything that they don't already know so far. We've heard about early people for our whole lives. We've heard about late people, and we've heard about people in the middle. What I'm famous for is I discovered a fourth chronotype. I call them the dolphin. Now, people always ask, like, Michael, why'd you choose dolphins? So it turns out dolphins sleep unihemispherically. So half of their brain is asleep while the other half is awake and looking for predators. I felt that like really represented my insomniacs and the people who have tremendous difficulty falling asleep. Now, I also want to be clear. Sometimes you can be a dolphin by circumstance or environment. What do I mean by that? There's one thing that happens to almost every woman on earth. It's called menopause. When you hit menopause, your hormones go cuckoo, and so does your sleep. And so I have a preponderance number of patients who come through that are in the midst of either beginning of menopause or all the way getting through menopause, and their sleep has gone super wonky, and they really fit this profile of a dolphin. A dolphin is somebody who highly intelligent, usually labeled themselves as an insomniac, super good energy. They're a lot like lions, but they just don't get the sleep that they feel like they need. And this is very difficult for people. They're constantly thinking about it, trying to figure out ways to sleep better. Oftentimes they've labeled themselves an insomniac. And so once you figure out your chronotype, actually life gets much easier, because believe it or not, this is not just about sleep. So if you know your chronotype, here's what happens. So let's take a lion, for example. Lion, their melatonin turns off around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. They're getting up at 5:30, quarter to 6. And then a very predictable hormonal pattern will occur for them with cortisol, with melatonin, with all the other hormones in their body until nighttime. Same holds true with the bear and then the wolf. And the wolf, this happens about 90 minutes later than the lion. So the way I use chronotypes, so I wrote a book called The Power of When, W-H-E-N. And this book actually details everything that you can do, because all your hormones can now be predicted. And instead of trying to change your hormones, just change the activity schedule. And believe it or not, you will find that you know where you've got your energy, when you've got your focus, when you've got your creativity. Comes in very predictable time blocks once you know and understand what your chronotype is. Honestly, I can tell people the best time to have sex, eat a cheeseburger, ask their boss for a raise, literally you name it, because there's been over 220 studies done on all of these different chronotypes that I had in the book. And there are probably 100 labs around the world that are studying chronotypes.
So there was a question in the chat around women cycles and so forth. I imagine this fits in well there. Is that kind of link into the dolphin situation?
So depending upon where a woman is in that kind of transition in her life, but also I want to double tap on women in particular, because when I treat women, I think I'm the only sleep doctor I know that does this. I will actually change the timing of their sleep based on where they are in their cycle. So women have a very particular, menstrual cycle. And during the luteal phase of this cycle, we see an increase in core body temperature, and that can be very disruptive to sleep. So sometimes we have to change their bedtimes in order to be able to take that into account. And also it brings up the interesting topic of temperature. So temperature is a fascinating topic, and it is one of the only things that we as humans can control without prescription medication, all kinds of different treatment modalities. So let's take a couple of minutes here and talk a little bit, if I can, about temperature and what goes on with that. So remember, your core body temperature rises until about 10:30, drops till about 1 o'clock in the morning, then rises back again. For example, if you're in the middle of menopause, That's not how it works. Sometimes your temperature rises at 3 o'clock in the morning instead of, when it should be at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's called a hot flash in the middle of the night. By the way, men can go through this too. It's called andropause. So men can have this as well. So there's a lot of things that people can think about with temperature. Now, everybody out there is probably saying, wait a second. I've always heard from people, sleep people, that you just want to make your room super duper cool at night. And you want to make your room somewhere between 65 and probably 72 degrees, depending upon what time of year it is. But here's the problem with doing that. You have a separate climate under the covers. So this unit that we're all walking around in, hopefully for a very long time, since this is the longevity group, is 98.6 degrees, right? If it's under the covers, it just radiates heat. You're literally creating a little mini sauna underneath the covers. And so this can be problematic for people. And so full disclosure, I work with a company called Orion Sleep. So I'm their chief sleep officer. I made that title up myself, by the way. I think it's pretty cool. What's fun about it is it's a topper that you sleep on top of. You put your sheet over it, and it has a thin tube that goes through it on each side. And then it can either pump hot water or cold water through it and change the core temperature that's coming up from underneath you. It's quite remarkable, I have to admit, that's out there. Now, some of you may have heard of a competitive company called 8 Sleep. By the way, they did an amazing job. And if you've got an 8 Sleep and you enjoy it, good for you. But if you haven't looked into this technology yet, the Orion has got some things that I believe are quite different, which is why I joined their company. One of the things that they do is they send you a sleep test. So it's a little patch that you wear underneath your arm, and you sleep with it for one night. Then you take your phone and scan it, and it will give you a report of how many times you woke up based on a thermoregulatory event, right? Unfortunately, most people out there, when they get the other product, they don't really know where to start or how to use it. Once we've discovered how many times you wake up, we take that data and we actually put it into your product and set it up for you. So that way you're working with a data-driven product experience versus well, I've got this tech, I'm just going to keep fiddling around with it and try to figure out how it is to work. So when you talk about thermoregulation and you talk about it within this chronotypical system, most of the people who are dolphins are the ones who could really benefit from something like an Orion Sleep. And since I am the chief sleep officer and Curtis is a close friend, we're going to put we have a discount code that we'll put in there and we'll send out to everybody if they want. It's DRMIKE, Dr. Mike. So again, back to the chronotypical system, I will also say that there's one other question that people love to ask me about, and I don't think it's too risque for this group, but it is, Dr. Breus, when is the best time to have sex? Everybody seems to want to know this. It's literally the most popular chapter in my book. So I'm going to give a quick little diatribe about that, and then we'll move on to the next question. So in order to have successful intimacy, you need 5 hormones, and they need to be elevated. You need estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol, and adrenaline should all be elevated. And melatonin, the sleep hormone, should be lower, okay? When you go to bed, well, actually, we did a survey and we looked at when do people most likely have sex. 74% of people have sex somewhere between 10:30 and 11:30 at night. What do you think your hormone profile looks like? It's literally the opposite, right? It's bad, right? It's literally melatonin is high and all those other things are low. So that is hint number 1 as to when you should be intimate with your partner. Hint number 2, if you happen to be having intimacy with somebody who was born biologically male, what do most of them wake up with? An erection. If that is not Mother Nature telling you when to use that thing, I don't know what is. Okay, so you heard it here from the sleep doctor. You now have a prescription for intimacy in the morning time. Now, run to the bathroom, throw in a little mouthwash or brush your teeth before you, hang out with your partner. But you will be surprised. We did a survey with people where we asked them to do this in the morning time. And here's what we discovered is men actually had better performance, like erectile function, and women actually reported better connection to their partner. So there's no reason not to try it, if you know what I mean.
I love it. All right. I want to respect your time and also jump in our group. So maybe a final parting set of words that,
Yeah.
or maybe a question I should have asked you but didn't ask you? I think we covered, I've been keeping an eye on the chat. We've covered most of the topics brought up in the chat. So thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, what I'd like to do is give everybody a 5-step plan that you can use starting tonight that will cover a whole host of different issues about this. So, step number 1 is to pick one wake up time and stick to it 7 days a week. Okay. We kind of beat that
Yes.
horse up. Everybody knows
Yep.
the reasoning and the biology behind why. Step number 2 has to do with caffeine. We didn't get a chance to talk much about caffeine. I asked people to stop caffeine by 2 p.m. Why? Caffeine has a half-life of between 6 and 8 hours. And so you really don't want caffeine after 2 because that puts you at 10 p.m. and you really don't want to have any caffeine on board at 10 p.m. And so if you can, stop caffeine by 2 and then slowly fade it a little bit earlier. Step number 3 has to do with alcohol. To be clear, there's a really big difference between going to sleep and passing out. Okay. We don't like the passing out portion. All right. And unfortunately, alcohol really just destroys stages 3 and 4 sleep. Stages 3 and 4 sleep turn out to be incredibly important, especially for our longevity, because this is where something called the glymphatic system really kicks into play. The glymphatic system is kind of the waste management or garbage truck of the brain. It comes in and it scoops out all of these proteins called beta amyloid and tau. And if beta amyloid and tau are left to accumulate in your brain, they have a tendency to wrap around the nerves, and that's called Alzheimer's disease. We would like to avoid that at all costs. Again, alcohol really messes up this system, but I like scotch, right? I like a good red, right? So how are we able to do this and still enjoy our alcohol? What you do is you limit yourself to 2 drinks. So you have, let's say it's 7 o'clock and you're having dinner, have your glass of wine, then have a glass of water because you want to be able to flush the system out. Maybe order your second glass of wine, and you're going to stop there, by the way. You don't have to drink the whole thing if you don't want to, but stop there, have your second glass of water, and then wait 3 hours. So it turns out that the average human takes approximately 1 to 1.5 hours to digest one alcoholic beverage. So if you give yourself the time in between the last drink and lights out, it really works well, and that's 3 hours. Step number 4 has to do with exercise. The single best way to improve sleep quality is to exercise daily, but you ain't got to run a marathon. I'm talking about like 25 minutes of cardio, and it doesn't even have to be hard cardio. It could be zone 2 and you'd be just fine. But if you do it too close to bedtime, you increase your core body temperature and it makes it really tough to sleep. So stop exercise 4 hours before bed. And then the 5th one has to do with waking up. And so when you wake up in the morning, I call it the 3-15s. So you want to take a hardback chair and put it outside, especially if you live here in sunny Southern California, and you want to take 15 deep breaths merely to bring yourself present and wake up your respiratory system. In between each breath, I want you to drink 1 ounce of water. Turns out that sleep is a dehydrative event. Most people lose a full liter of water just from the humidity in their breath. And then I want you to make sure that you get 15 minutes of sunshine. So it turns out that sunshine, that amount of time is exactly the amount of time that your body needs to start to produce vitamin D. Vitamin D is a circadian pacemaker, so that can be very, very helpful. So again, in summary, step number 1, pick 1 wake-up time and stick to it. Step number 2, stop caffeine by 2 p.m. Step number 3, stop alcohol 3 hours before bed, limit yourself to 2 drinks. Step number 4 is to exercise daily, but stop exercise 4 hours before bed. And step number 5 is 3-15s, which is to be outside with 15 deep breaths, 15 ounces of water, and 15 minutes of sunshine.
Amazing. I think I can speak for the group. This was incredible. Thanks, Michael. And just so practical. I mean, I think that's the aspect that it really sticks for me. There's so many tools and practices that we can just literally use immediately. And a ton of people asking for the recording. So that also is another good sign. So
yeah. If people are interested, I have a YouTube channel that people can swing on over to. It's The Sleep Doctor. We've got a tremendous number of videos, I think almost 800 videos there. So anything you can imagine, I've probably covered. But feel free to email Curtis if you've got an extra question or something like that. I'm always happy to give people answers and be able to help people sleep better.
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. Okay, so for anyone that is new to the group, please raise your hand. We'll stick over here with me, and I'll run you through a way to get essentially 15 additional years on your life simply through a journaling exercise that we've proven now with really awesome data. And then everyone else, a few minutes of follow-up questions with Curtis and Dr. Breus.
And before we do that, we've got
Yeah,
Tamara, our dear partner, Tamara.
jump in tomorrow.
Hey everyone, just wanted to share a little bit about Forum. We keep talking about Forum. I've actually been in Forum for over 20 years, first in Entrepreneurs Organization and then in YPO and now in CEO. So I'm a bit of a Forum junkie, but it was all for business. So the idea of Forum for our body or CEOs of our body is really important. And, I'm 50 this year, the menopause, all of that. And I found longevity about 7 years ago and had now, really been able to transition myself. But it takes focus. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? So how do we do a 12 months journey together with accountability and people we can be vulnerable and share what's really going on so that we can not just biohack, but live with a lot more intention and simple things, Michael. I mean, this isn't about hacking and
Nope.
going and getting stem cells every month and all of those things. These are the basics that we have to remind ourselves to focus on. So we've put together a 12-month longevity journey that you take with 14 other people, and it's been life-changing for me. So if you're interested in joining a forum, we will take you through what that looks like. I'll put in the chat actually a little bit more information about it, but we're basically going to take you through a 12-month curated longevity transition, no matter where you are on your journey. This is about giving you more years, more joyful years, more healthy years. And by the end of the 12 months, I'm hoping you'll have a biological age of similar to what Curtis and I have, which is more than 10 years of mine's 35.5 and I'm 50 this year. So it's been life-changing for me. So the details are in the chat if you're interested. Curtis, I think you're even offering spouses to join at no cost for anyone who signs up for the 12 months, because you made a very good point. No one wants to live an extra 22 years without their loved one.
Absolutely, yeah. For the next 2 days, anyone that signs up for the longevity forums, we would love for you to invite your spouse at no additional cost. Jerry, David, that goes for you. We'd love Peggy to join. We'd be so thrilled to have her part of the journey. So yeah, let's continue the learning. If you are new, Nathaniel, should you go into room 1 if you're new and room 2 if you're returning?
I have split everybody up based off of my recollection of who's been here before, and you will all automatically be pushed into your rooms. So, in 1 second, we shall enter into the rooms. Here we go.
Well, 15 years when it comes to the duration that we want to live, just by understanding the whys behind, not just the number, of course. I think that's the key piece of the whole equation is, what does that mean for our family? What does that mean for our legacy? What we want to achieve and how we want to show up for all the big buckets of life. And literally just spending a couple minutes going through those questions with a pen and a piece of paper typically have added additional 15 years to that target age that we initially write down on the piece of paper, which is mind-blowing. And then, after that, of course, a lot of the forms, the whole point is to support that desire and so forth and those objectives with speakers like Dr. Breus, but then also various testing and so forth. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm also going to give our minds a bit of a competitive advantage and throw on some binaural beats during the time that we're answering the questions. But here is the first question. There roughly will have maybe 1 or 2 minutes per question. And then we'll come back to the main group, but you should have the insights, which will last for your entire longevity journey. So number one is simply the number. So what's your number? Set the longevity target. Like, what is that number that feels most appropriate to you in terms of how long you want to live to thriving? So what's the age you want to live to? Thriving, clear-minded, and mobile. And just when the mind stops there, just to help push it forward a little bit, what does that number feel, or why does that number feel right to you? And just keep going down that track. And I will set a timer for 1 minute, and we'll also throw on that music to help us out. All right, so 1 minute, go for it. I'm going to do it with you because it's good to review this. Okay, let's go to the second question. Might have seen that already. So now imagine adding additional 22 years to that number. How would those extra years allow you to show up differently in these areas of your life? This is probably one of the most important questions. Family, work, legacy, impact. Just take a look at those 4 categories. And again, just let what surfaces in your mind come up and write that out. Pull it out of the mind, put it on the piece of paper. And when you feel like your mind is getting a little bit stuck, just keep asking, and what else? We'll do a couple minutes on that one. All right, last 40 seconds. Okay. Third question, what's holding you back? Name the core challenge. So is there a key health habit or something, a mindset, a perspective, something that you need to really let go of to realize those objectives? And here's the question. I remember someone on a podcast left this with me that I interviewed. This one's powerful. If you don't address this, what will it cost you in family, work, legacy, and impact? Think about what this means if you don't address this core challenge. It's a good reframe. We'll do a minute there. seconds. And last question. First step, let's move from journaling and insight to actual action. So think of yourself at that desired age, thriving, clear-minded, healthy, all of the factors. What counsel would that future version of you tell you right now? And this is something I love this question when even longevity aside, if we're stuck on a challenge, whether it's business or personal, just getting quiet, doing this when the mind is clear, and asking for some future advice from that version of you many years out. It's amazing what surfaces. So put yourself at that desired age and reflect back, almost like you're sitting in front of a mentor. It just happens to be you as the mentor. Last 30 seconds. I'll stop sharing my screen here. Come back. Question for the group is, we always like to end this around just sharing what that future counsel, that future advice, that future version of you, what advice did they give you? Because usually that applies to most of the group as well. Anyone want to share what came up for them? You can just unmute.
Mark, which one is that one again? What
Yeah, that
question?
Jerry, the last one, just what future counsel did you get from that version of you, many years out, let's say?
Um, I put down really that I think seeing family in the world that far out with, I'll just say, wisdom and knowledge and perspective that we would have, the impact would be so cool because it's changing so
Yeah.
fast. I think um, we're in an age that we get to live this much longer, but yet it's changing so fast. They're not going to be able to relate to things we experienced in the last 50, 60 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus, I think a lot of things my parents experienced, my grandparents experienced, I can relate to that. It didn't change as rapidly, and I knew them. So I feel that, my great grandkids aren't even going to even relate to the way, even comprehend how we grew up, where I can comprehend a little bit. My grandfather worked at a young age, so did I. So things weren't dramatically different. And I just think it'd be neat to be around to transfer that in-person experience because it's going to
Transfer the
just be so
wisdom.
different, like not even recognizable.
Yeah, yeah. It makes me think I mean, we've lost this a lot as a society, at least in North America, but just the, like wisdom transfer and the rituals and and so forth that a lot of cultures, historically have had, right? Just passing down how to do things, how to think, and so forth, right? Like that's
Well, yeah,
one of those moments.
I think I thought about was, I'm fascinated with the automobile that, my grandparents were born in the early like 1911, 1913. I knew them well, but they knew horses for some things, but they really didn't understand life without a car,
Hmm.
where their grandparents, or their parents did. So like it would have been neat to talk to my great grandparents and actually talk about what it was like to just literally not have an automobile. It wasn't invented yet. Like I think it'd be really neat so
Yeah, no, and it's for everyone. I think all of us just finding that thing that anchors us to the journey. Because I mean, it's not, there's so many things we can do for our longevity, and then we get, life happens and so forth. And these are just good anchor points to come back to, right? And just a quick little reset. Just before we go back to the main room, is there one more from the group that wants to share anything that, I guess we can just say anything that stood out from that exercise for you?
It's kind of the same thing, that perspective. And when you have that much time perspective, it kind of puts these little things that we tend to sweat
Yeah.
in its proper place.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Amazing. Well, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. We'll go back to the main group, but then we'll wrap up probably in a minute or two. So thank you. You can just hit leave room and it should bring you back. There we go. Perfect. All right, everyone should be coming. There we go.
I lost Michael. Is Michael still on board? I hope. Michael, if you're
I'm talking to him, and we'll get you
there
connected
he
with
is.
him.
He just popped in. Let me just finish answering the question for Michael. So that's one thing that I would recommend, is kind of that on-call situation. That works really, really well. But you mentioned that your wife is pumping breast milk. And so there's actually a little factoid that most people don't know. But breast milk pumped at night actually contains melatonin, and breast milk pumped during the day does not. And so don't mix them up. Label it night milk versus day milk. Otherwise, because if you give day milk to a baby in the middle of the night, they have a tendency to not fall asleep.
Okay, good to know.
Also good for the other group to come in on the topic of
I know, right?
day and night milk. I love it. No, that sounds really interesting though, and useful.
Yeah.
Curtis, where are you? There, you're still there. Do you want to take it home for everyone?
Yeah, we're just so grateful to have Dr. Michael Breus joining us today to inspire us with all the ways that we can live younger, healthier, longer by getting better sleep, not just quantity, but quality. We're going to be sending out a thank you email to everybody with the recording, with the discount coupon for the Orion sleep bed. It's awesome. Christy and I have been using it, and total game changer. So as a quick wrap up, we love having this community together. We're going to be doing this monthly going forward. Check your email for the next installment in April. And again, if you are interested in learning more about the longevity forums, we'd love to have that conversation with you. Go to the link. We'll send that as well. And for anyone that decides to join the longevity forum in the next 48 hours, we would love to welcome both you and your spouse. So thank you. Blessings. Here's to a better night's sleep for all. Michael, appreciate you, buddy. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank
Sweet
you, Mark.
dreams, everyone. And thanks
so
for
much.
listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye now.